So in yesterday evening's meeting, we spoke a little bit about the tendency for spiritual bypassing. The avoidance of the messy, often messy human experience, the turbulence of feelings, and so on, in the desire to achieve some kind of spiritual state. Now that tendency to bypassing is not just a spiritual bypassing. There's a tendency to that in everyday life. And even in retreat, the subtle tendency to want to have a certain experience, to achieve a certain state, whether that be peace, happiness, and so on. So I want to invite you during this retreat and also in your everyday life to not seek for any state. To not feel or think or want, because you've committed to this retreat, to not want something in return in terms of a state, a special state. In other words, to not push away or deny any part of your internal landscape as you move in and out of being in this space here, in your own private space, in nature. Seek for nothing. It's not something that you will achieve, some state that you can then take home with you. Now I've done that. I got it. That's what I call the spiritual shopping basket. It doesn't serve any true transformation. It doesn't serve any true freedom. So the retreat is a microcosm of life. Sometimes an intensification, an amplification. So when you notice yourself trying to hold on to any state, that's the time to throw it away. When I say throw it away, simply surrender to what is here. Instead of seeking any state, instead of seeking spiritual enlightenment, what is more helpful is to seek what is true. Not what is true as a belief, not what is true as an absolute truth, although that's where it's heading. But not some kind of ideology or dogma or point of view that once again becomes a special state. is true, right here, in the very intimacy of your experience. When you're seeking, when you're longing, your deepest longing is to know, to discover, to meet what is true. What is true for you in the very experience you're experiencing. What happens in that is a relaxation of the seeking mind and a kind of opening happens. And in that opening, everything that has been previously unmet, everything that has been previously turned away from, which is always a feeling, some kind of energetic experience that was too much to bear, or too shocking, or too frightening, or just not wanted. Everything that has not been previously met, that has been turned away from, will come in. Not as a punishment, not because there's something wrong, but because it's been invited into openness. It's been invited into truth. And in that you can meet what is true. What is true in the energetic experience of this life. And when it's fully met, then what is true beneath that can also reveal itself. Because truth is not a landing place. It's not a destination. It's not an arrival. You don't arrive at truth. Now I've found it. Now I've got it. That becomes another acquisition for the mind. There's no openness in that. Truth is an ongoing discovery. An ongoing invitation. An ongoing inquiry in you. Truth is here when you're not giving allegiance to the narratives of the mind. Yeah, the narratives of the mind create a closure. This shouldn't be happening. This shouldn't be happening to me. And so on and so on. As long as there's a shouldn't, then there's no doorway to truth. There's no doorway to what is true. When we're willing to meet, to allow, to energetically experience everything that's in our internal landscape without the narrative of this shouldn't be happening, that starts to dissolve that clenched fist that we spoke of yesterday. Some of you spoke about a kind of terror or fear, a kind of restlessness as you come closer to the innermost, to the deeper, to that which is beneath the acquisitive mind, the one that looks for fulfillment in doing and having. As you come closer to what is true in you, a certain kind of terror or fear can arise. Then meet that. Just be with it. this being with, this meeting is tenderness, is kindness, being kind towards your experience. Even if it's frightening, even if it's shocking, even if it's unwanted. We're so busy, often being concerned with being kind to others. But we are not often kind to the experience we're having. We want to reject it. We want to change it. We want to kill it. We want to get rid of it. We want to be in a different state. As if being in a different state would make us more perfect, or more lovable, or more acceptable. So turning tenderness and kindness to whatever is here in the energetic field of your experience is a potent doorway to this openness that's being spoken of, to freedom. The freedom where there is no need to control what is here. There is no need to change what is here. There is no need to get rid of what is here. In this openness, a whole new dimension of possibilities arises. Again, some of you spoke about wanting to break free or awaken, wake up out of conditioning. This being free of conditioning isn't a matter of changing yourself so that you're a better person. It's not about fixing yourself. It's not about controlling yourself. It's not about contorting yourself into a different shape so that you're no longer tortured by your conditioning, that you're no longer reacting in habitual ways. That comes by itself. When there's the deepest acceptance of what is here, then when there is the tenderness towards your experience. When there is tenderness, there is openness, and in that there can be no more reactivity. In that, an infinite field of possibilities opens up, so you're no longer ruled by what we call conditioning, habitual patterns. Habitual patterns arise because the nervous system is tightened. The whole energetic system of you has tightened into this clenched fist. This tightening creates a rejection of what is here, an argument with what is here, based subconsciously, unconsciously on what happened in the past that you didn't like, that you didn't want, that was too much to bear. But the invitation now is to bear the unbearable. Not so that you can be re-traumatized. Not so that you are punished, but because you can. Because you have that capacity. Because that's your birthright. because that's the doorway to true freedom. In that way, conditioning, old reactive habits, stop torturing you. Stop being the primary mechanism by which you relate to life. In one sense, you don't change. You don't become a better person. You don't become a different personality according to the one that you imagine might function better in life, or get more love in life, or be happier in life. In that sense, nothing changes. But something falls away, naturally. Because you start becoming natural. Naturalness has a quality of innocence, quality of nakedness. It doesn't come to life with a barrage of defense strategies. Naturalness meets what is here as openness. Just like the creatures, just like the birds, just like the leaves on the tree, there is naturalness. So this openness is natural. It's not something we have to learn. It's not something that we have to add to ourselves. It's not part of the shopping basket. It's a matter of seeing what stands in the way of that. And when I say seeing, I mean becoming sensitive to. Becoming sensitive to the tendency for narrative. Narrative may happen, but believing that narrative is what makes the difference. It's not about controlling your thinking or even the stories that arise. Some of that is just habitual, old waves that just continue to flow in. What makes the difference is whether you give your allegiance to that, whether you believe it, whether you create yourself out of it.